Sheriff Ozzie talks with community leaders about issues in the public safety arena. Sponsored by River Ridge Hardware.
Well, good morning, afternoon. This thing runs on several different banks. So, this is Sheriff Ozzie with the Sheriff's Report. It's great to be back. We were absent due to COVID. There was a lot of work that went on during that. I think that I'll bring some people in to talk about all the work that went on during that time frame. And now we're back, and now we're once again in our nation talking about the law enforcement and the public. And, you know, the sad part about all this is if people would just stop and listen, the echo that they would hear are 1 million police officers going, "We agree with you. Yeah. What happened in Minneapolis was wrong."
The outrage really starts there with other police officers.
We are outraged because we're so tired of the very few always making everyone look bad. And that's what happens on a continual basis.
That happens in everything, though. I mean, it happens with people on the left, and it happens with people on the right. It happens with teachers. It happens in a number of industries and work areas. We can say the same thing about some of the things that blacks or other minorities have done, that we look at one individual or a couple of individuals that represents the entirety, and it doesn't.
No, it doesn't.
We're all individuals, and sometimes we're flawed, or we do flawed things, okay? We're not perfect.
In no way, shape, or form.
No.
And, that's why, everybody wants to talk about training again, and you're missing the boat here. Speaker Pelosi is sponsoring a massive reform bill. Please do not get fooled by that, because much of that reform they're talking about has already been codified by the Supreme Court. They're just simply going to codify it into law. These are things that we've been living and training for many years. So it's the typical politicians jumping on, trying to look like they're doing something when they really don't understand the problem. And here's the problem. I'm going to give you what the true problem is. It's truly not the training. If you listen to the video of George Floyd, you will hear those police officers saying, "Roll him on his side. We need to roll him on his side." They understood their training.
Those are the other three.
The other three. Okay. And they should have just moved that guy off, and they should have rolled him up. Yeah. And the training is, if somebody says that they can't breathe, that's a medical emergency. The research is showing that because of the populations that we tend to deal with at times, and I don't care, white, brown, black, it doesn't matter. If you have substances on board and there's any kind of struggle, especially if there's any type of underlying medical conditions, when somebody says, "I can't breathe," it's a medical emergency.
Okay.
And you had better be dealing with that.
Yeah.
And those officers heard it. You hear it on that video. Yeah. Roll him on his side. The problem is there are people that should not wear a badge. And we need the ability to get rid of people that should not wear the badge.
Now, you've done quite a bit of that over your, 10, 11, 12 years?
14 years.
14 years. Has it been that long?
It is. And
oh, Lord.
I'm feeling it.
Yeah, you are. And good to see that your back is doing better, too, because I know you had back surgery a couple of weeks ago. During all of this, I mean, my gosh, could you add anything else to it? Your kids are okay and all that?
I have 2 kids in law enforcement and a son-in-law in law enforcement, and one's talking about getting out of law enforcement because they see the trend again. There's been, I think we're at 6 or 7 law enforcement officers killed in the last week and a half,
Yeah.
2 on life support, and they're looking at, my God,
Why am I doing this?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Why am I doing this? And all this talk about defunding police and
Yeah.
all that. Well, here's the thing. We have a hard time getting people to do this job.
Yes.
You might have a self-fulfilling prophecy on your hands.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the harsh reality is, when the first round of this happened, under the prior administration, presidential administration, things got really, really, really ugly.
Yeah. Especially after Dallas.
Dallas, we lost a lot of people during Dallas nationally. And at that point, I started hearing law enforcement leaders from across the nation, because it was so hard to recruit, talking about lowering their standards to include people that have committed low-level felonies. And I went, time out. You just didn't say that, because I have a philosophy. You hire your own problems.
Right.
You cannot hire the lowest common denominator
Right.
to fulfill these type
And
of
I don't
positions.
think anyone out there wants us to
No,
do
they
that, right?
don't.
Okay.
But I mean, that's where they found themselves.
How many officers do you have in the sheriff's department?
I have 227. The Board of County Commissioners 2 years ago finally gave us the ability to pre-hire. So
Okay.
we have what we call pre-hire positions,
Okay.
14, and we struggle to keep that flow going. And
But if you go just use, and I'm coming up with a number, at 1% are bad or may be bad. Okay, and that's a low number in any industry for anything.
Well, if
to
you
be
take
incompetent, okay.
If you take a look at law enforcement, you could look at the incompetence level, or the bad actor level.
Yeah.
You will find one of the least levels in any industry. Right. I mean, that's not me, Sheriff Knezovich, saying that. That is studies. Those are research studies.
Right.
And I'm challenging people to kind of slow down. And let's take a look at research, because any other time, if we were dealing with something
Right.
in criminal justice, especially in the Spokane area, they'd be screaming, we need to have research. We
Right.
need to have evidence base. Well, please slow down and get that research and get that evidence base.
Because you have that.
I do.
Yeah.
I have it. I've been doing it. And I'm going to tell you the other part, the problem in this arena. The state of Washington has no training standards. They don't. How do I know that? Because for 15 years, I have been fighting to raise the standards of training in the state of Washington.
Right.
10 years ago, I said, folks, we don't have standards in firearms training. And every chief and sheriff in that meeting, their jaw dropped when CJTC staff went, he's right. Wow. So I donated 2 of my personnel to CJTC, and they worked and they created the Master Firearms Program.
Wow. And
that's how we ended up with standards in the state of Washington for firearms. It needs to be done across the board on everything.
Yep.
And that, you wanted to start somewhere, you start by changing that dynamic. CJTC is no longer an accredited training. And that is unheard of. We can't get training certified through CJTC because they don't certify training. We get our training certified through IADLIST, which is the National Association for all post-law enforcement training in the nation. Mm-hmm. That's where we send our training to get them that certified, because CJTC at the state level doesn't. Yeah. You want to change that dynamic? Well, get a hold of the governor, get a hold of your state reps, tell them to focus on CJTC.
There's been a lot of discussion recently with all that's been going on, and let's bring it down to Spokane. And I'm thinking, while your responsibility is not the city police department, however, I live in the city, and a lot of people watching do. And first of all, I'll say we're very fortunate to have you at the county level and Craig at the Spokane Police Department. I can't think of two finer men that really care about this community. So thank you, and thanks to Craig, who will be on our program here in a couple of weeks. But there's this call for defunding and spending more money on social programs and so forth. Okay, as a citizen, I remember correcting a candidate for state office a few years back because he kept talking about keeping the streets safe. Former cop, okay? That's the language he uses, okay? I said, no, to me as a voter, it's keeping my neighborhood safe. That's where I live, that's where my family is, and everything else. Use the language of those of us that are going to be affected. I don't mean the police officers aren't going to be affected. I start to worry about what's going to happen to my neighborhood, to my friends and others if we start throwing money out there. And quite frankly, yeah, this is a very political statement. It goes out to a bunch of groups, and would go out to a bunch of groups that are going to spend it on staff and everything else out there. I mean, we've got Brian Beggs and others on this judiciary committee trying to let people out, and we've seen what's happened. Across the country, people have been murdered and raped, okay?
Well, I'll be giving you a timeline.
When do we get some sense to what's going on here, folks? The first thing in my mind is police and fire.
Yeah.
Okay?
And the thing is, about 6 years ago, I gave Brian, the City Council, the Board of County Commissioners, a way to fix this entire problem. And I can tell you that since 2011, there is a master plan that talks about bringing all the programs that Brian talks about, that talks about actually redesigning the entire system. And it has sit collecting dust since 2011.
Okay.
I even gave them the funding streams to make it all work. But it will never happen because they can't agree. They can't get to the table, and they can't find a way to agree as a region of how to do this. And you know, they're going to spend millions and millions of dollars, Kent, on things that I've already told them that, no, don't do that. If you really want to do something, put more mental health workers in police cars with police officers, because it is an amazing program. It has done
works.
Phenomenal.
Right.
But you know, it's deaf ears. They want to do this other thing, which is going to cost you, the taxpayer,
because in some
a whole
cases,
bunch of money, and it's not really going to work.
In some cases, it's their friends that run those programs that will benefit from it, okay? We've seen it with some of the housing issues recently and so forth, people that are questionable and so forth, okay?
But let me give you next week I'm going to put a timeline out on an individual. Now, we talk about, you know, on one side of the coin, you know, reforming people. I'm all for that. On the other side of the coin, we talk about holding people accountable. Well, that needs to happen too. But when you have a system that fails across the board, you tell me how that system helped this individual that ended up committing all these crimes, and then you tell me how we protected society from these crimes, because the final crime is murder.
Yes.
And we saw it coming. We saw it coming. I actually used this individual last year as a talking point of we failed him and we are failing society.
Yes.
And nothing changed. A year later, individual is dead, and he is facing, you know, possibly life in prison. Who won here? And I'll tell you another aspect. I am so tired of watching people die because of an ineffective system, and that's what we have.
Yeah.
And I'm tired of watching people
Well, you've
die.
had a mayor in the past, and you know, and those on the council that don't want certain organizations that are effective to be involved because they might be related to religious point of view and,
oh my gosh.
and
Yeah.
so forth. However, they are effective.
They are very effective.
And just giving them a place to house overnight, yes, in some cases I get that. That needs to happen. They need to get out of, you know, minus degrees and so forth. But there has to also be a chance to give them a real life. And we need to spend time and some money and not be afraid to fund religious organizations that are doing
Excellent
the
work.
ultimate. Yeah. I mean, I'm speaking, Union Gospel Mission, and there are others out there that I was talking to somebody yesterday that their company supports Union Gospel Mission and Vanessa Behan because of the change that these organizations can make on the families and so forth. And I'm thinking, well, we do too, how good they are.
Pastor Danny Green is another one that has done
Okay.
phenomenal work for this community, and he's done it for free. He's done it for free in the Spokane County jail system. We tried to get him some funding, and
Let's get him on one time.
We can do that.
Okay.
We tried to get him some funding from the government entities here locally,
Right.
and he got shot down.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
he's doing it for free.
Yeah. We need to support that.
We do.
We do.
And then you mentioned defunding.
Yeah.
National poll, I just got off the phone with Senator Padden. He was telling me, Ozzie, I just saw a national poll. 80% of America is going, are you crazy? Defund the police? Are you crazy?
To fund the police.
To
defund.
No, they want to fund the police.
Okay.
They do not want to defund
Yeah.
the police.
Yeah.
80%
Well,
of
they're
America.
thinking about their family.
Yes, and knee-jerk reactions are just knee-jerk reactions. Again, that echo you're hearing, if everybody would just listen, is a million police officers saying
Yeah.
Minneapolis was wrong.
Yeah.
And we need to do better, and here's how we do better. We hold people to strict standards and values.
Yeah.
If you're going to wear a badge, you wear that badge under those strict standards and values. Kent, I talk to the new hires coming into the sheriff's office.
Right.
I give them all an hour with me, their time, not mine. They can ask me whatever question there is about the agency. I reserve two questions. One, because I'm very goal-oriented, I want to know what your goals are for the next 20 years.
Yeah.
5, 10, 15, 20.
Right.
Think about it. Because it's never too early to think about
Right.
that.
Right.
I said, the next one is, why us?
Yeah.
Why did you choose the Spokane County Sheriff's
Yeah.
Office? You could have went to work for the Spokane Police Department and made more money. You could have, why us? And when you listen to those kids, it tells you how I'm getting old.
Well, no,
They're kids.
I was going to say something. I can relate. They're kids to us.
Right. And they say because we did our research,
Yeah.
and we want to work for an agency that has standards,
Yeah.
that has values.
Right.
And I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
That
Isn't
says
that what you want to hear?
Exactly.
And I don't think they were saying it because they knew what you wanted to hear, right? Did it come from the gut?
It did.
Yeah.
And I was like,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah.
And they are definitive. Look, and they do. These kids are really bright kids.
Yeah.
They do their research,
Yeah.
and they've watched. And I don't say this number with any great pride because it's taken a lot out of me.
Yeah.
But there are roughly 80 people that don't work for this agency anymore because they wouldn't do it right. Yeah. And the closest thing you'll ever come to killing somebody is to utter the words, "You're terminated," because you're taking everything away from them.
Yeah.
I learned that in college. Well, one of my college professors said that. And I've always lived by a strict rule. If you're going to terminate somebody, you do it face to face.
Yes.
So you can
Yes.
look them in the eye.
Yes.
Make sure that final gut check that you're doing your job right.
Yeah.
But if you do
Not the easiest thing. I remember
No.
the first time I had to fire a couple of employees, and I put it off and put it off and put it off. I think I was 21.
Yeah.
Okay. So
But
really,
it
really
is-
young to do it. But
it's really hard because, let's face it, we're herd animals.
yeah.
We like to be liked.
Yes.
But when you have to make those type of
And
decisions,
you want people to succeed.
exactly, and it's hard because you're no longer going to be liked. One of the amazing conversations I had this week was with the executive director of the Sheriffs and Chiefs Association. He said, "Ozzie, I think it's time to maybe try to run a bill for police accountability to make sure that we."
What you
are
tried to run before.
Well, that was my comment. I says, I tried that once
Yeah.
in 2012 and 2013, and you left me. You abandoned me.
Yeah.
You didn't support me.
Let's take that out there again this season, okay? There's an election coming up, and we need to be asking some very hard questions.
Yeah, what are you willing to do?
Okay.
Because
It's not in bill form yet or anything.
not yet.
Not yet.
I'm just going to resurrect the old bill.
Okay.
And here's the
Send that to me, will you?
I will.
Because we'll print it and hold it, and we'll ask some candidates.
Yeah. What do you
Okay?
want to do?
Yeah.
Because
Do you support this or not?
the last time there are 15 senators and representatives that affect Spokane County. 15. Only 5
Yeah.
supported that bill the last time. That was Senator Mike Padden,
Right.
Senator Michael Baumgardner, who's now the treasurer of Spokane County,
Right.
Representative Joel Kretz
Okay.
out of the 7th, former Representative Kevin Parker, and former Representative Fagan
Okay.
out in the 9th. That was it.
Yeah.
Only 5 of 15. And everybody was running for cover because it's not a popular bill internally. In 2014, the unions and the extreme,
Well, their first
extreme
job is
right
to-
and extreme
Yeah,
left tried
it's-
to
it's
eliminate
protect
me.
their officers. I get
Yeah.
that, but
They tried to eliminate me, tried to take me out in that 14 election.
yeah.
But here's the thing that they're forgetting and they don't realize is that every citizen group, every citizen I talk to,
Yeah.
and they hear about that bill and they read that bill and they go, and you couldn't get this out of committee?
Yeah.
Because folks, we couldn't even get that bill out of committee.
Well, I was going to say the people watching this,
It was a no-brainer.
our audience, the people that watch this, and we're growing like crazy, by the way, will support this, and they'll be very interested to see who does and who doesn't go on the record.
Yeah. Who
Okay.
has the courage to stand up for values?
Yeah.
Who has the courage to stand up for standards?
Yeah.
That's what this boils down to.
Yeah.
Is your entire being wrapped up in being an elected official,
Yeah.
or is your entire being wrapped up into representing the public and doing the best that we can for the public?
Yeah.
And sometimes that means you're not going to be popular with all people.
Yeah.
Trust me, I'm not.
Yeah.
I know that the extreme right doesn't like me. I know the extreme
Yeah.
left doesn't like me, and I'm okay with that. I know that there's people in
But
the
you know
middle
what
that,
the
that
law
don't
is?
always agree with all my stances. I'm okay with that because I'm doing the best I can with the information that I have,
Right.
and I am trying to protect my community.
Well, when
And the
85
day that I can't look in the mirror and say that I'm doing it for that reason is the day I will be gone.
Yeah. Well, the community supports you. I mean, who else gets 85, 86% vote? Okay, and even the outside political polls have said that too. Okay, I mean, that's really unheard of.
Yeah.
Okay, so yes, there might be, 15% out there, 14% that don't know or do want to change or whatever their reason is, but you
Well, it's
you
because-
represent the people, okay? And that's an important distinction too, as being a representative as well as being a leader. You really have both roles.
I do.
Yeah,
And,
but we
Kent,
know going in what your leadership is after being there for 14 years.
I think we're bumping our time limits
Yeah.
here. So I'm going to tell you one aspect. When I swear somebody in, I shake their hand.
Yes.
And in my palm, I have the badge. And when I shake that hand, that badge is between me and that new hire, that new deputy, just swore in. And I look at him in the eye and say, "Do nothing to dishonor this badge."
Yes.
And
yes.
and they know I mean it.
Yes.
And then I explained that I am the elected representative of law enforcement in this community.
Right.
There's only one, me.
Right.
I take that very seriously. I am the bridge between them and the citizen.
Yeah.
And I need them to understand that they work for the citizen,
Yes.
period.
Right. Through you.
Through me,
Yep.
but they work for the citizen. All 510,000 of them.
Yeah.
And if you don't want to work for the citizen, you're going to dishonor that badge. You won't wear it.
Ozzie, thank you for all you do and your deputies do.
Well, thank you.
You honor us all.
So, folks, this is the Sheriff Ozzie Knezowicz with the Sheriff's Report. Have a great morning, evening, whatever it is when you finally watch this, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks for watching. Ask the host a question, recommend a guest, or check out any of our other programs on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or SpokaneTalksMedia.com. Sponsored by River Ridge Hardware.
Here at River Ridge Hardware, we want to help you help your fathers and grandfathers. How many times have you seen them get a bigger workout just trying to get the equipment started? They crank, and never get started. We have a battery operated. You just throw that battery in, run it, pull the trigger, you're ready to roll. No workout, all fun, getting the garden done. Here at River Ridge Hardware, we want to help you make your dad's day and your grandfather's day. Neighbors helping neighbors at River Ridge Hardware.